Good morning and welcome back to day 2 of Doodle Therapy. It's great to see everyone in the chat. My name is Alice. I'm your host. I'm an illustrator and a muralist based in the Bay Area, and we are joined today with the amazing, talented installation artist and comic artist, Shing Yin Khor. Welcome, Shing.
Hello, how are you? Good morning.
I'm great. I'm experiencing 8 a.m. once again, bright and early.
Yes.
Yes.
A second time in maybe 5 years I've done this.
Yeah, I've gotten to see the sunrise. It's pretty cool. Yeah, good morning to everyone. Yesterday it was really fun to see where everyone was tuning in and getting a bit of a roll call. So if you're joining us live, please introduce yourself in the chat, share where you're from. And I would also love to hear, our question of the day will be, what time of the day is it for you? Like what, portion of it are you experiencing? Is it the morning like us? Are you in the afternoon, the evening? Would love to hear. So if you're new to Doodle Therapy, since we have normally been at the 2:30 p.m. slot in the afternoons, now we're saying hi to the morning crowd. This is an interactive drawing show where every week we talk to a different artist about life, art, work, fun stuff, and we dive into a different drawing topic with that guest artist. It's also interactive, which means that every week we have a prompt that you can follow along with. So this week with Shing, since Shing is a comics artist, we are creating zines together. And we also have a template in the description that you can follow if you'd like to make a zine yourself. Hello to our furry friend here, to Bug. Hi, Bug.
Sorry, she was barking at our neighbor's dog and I had to tell her to chill.
Aww, what a cutie.
But now everyone gets to meet her.
Hi.
Hey, Bug, say hello to everyone.
I'm always so happy to see little cutie,
got a little orange hoodie on today.
Yeah.
All right, stop barking.
So we gave our shout out to Bug, Bug the cute dog. And I also want to give a shout out to all the folks who are viewing live. We've got Sean from Germany, it's afternoon. Karen from New York, mid-morning. Abid from Pakistan. Richard says it's morning for them. Early morning for Tim. David is experiencing the morning as well. And Attleboro, Nora says it's 5 p.m. in Hungary. So thanks to everyone for joining. It looks like we're, catching an audience from a wide variety of places. So that's really exciting. Shing and I are both based in California. So also, since this is the first show of the day, I do want to show the schedule for this rest of the day up here. So this is Doodle Therapy with Shing at 8 a.m. Will be followed by the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge with Voodoo Val. Then at 9:30, you can dive into photo editing with Ashley Batts. After that will be the Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge with Andrew Hawk. And then at noon, you can explore editorial design with Angela Freja, followed by the XD Daily Creative Challenge with Andrea Epi, and then the Draw Along fun interactive activity with Kyle Webster. And then rounding out the day will be a replay, a creative encore of a design off with Alex Lazarus and Voodoo Val. So we've got a pretty packed day. Like I said yesterday, it reminds me a little bit of art camp because you could really learn a lot about just so many different topics. And so yeah, today we're gonna be just continuing our conversation with Shing and making zines. Hey, that rhymes. But first, here's some of Shing's work here on the screen. Shing, do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I am sorry, I've got my dog joining me today because she will not leave me alone. Her name's Bug. I am a illustrator, cartoonist, and installation artist based in Los Angeles. A lot of my work is about reclaiming Americana for reclaiming Americana as an immigrant, as well as stories about food and family, especially found family. Right up there above me is my 12-foot Home Depot skeleton named Paul Bonian. He is one of my good friends.
So I think I'd like to tell this story. You can check it out more on Shing's Twitter, which Jeffrey has really helpfully linked in the chat. But Shing basically found this giant, how tall is it? Like
12 feet.
12 feet. That's 12 feet. Dang. 12
yeah,
feet
I'm 5
tall.
feet tall in case, you need a scale.
Got it. So they found this 12-foot tall skeleton, which you can see in the far right corner. They found this 12-foot skeleton at Home Depot.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah. It was actually going around the internet for a bit, kind of as a fun thing. There's a lot of people there's a Facebook group for 12-foot skeleton owners.
Nice. And then decided to dress this fellow up in a gigantic plaid shirt lumberjack outfit, and then Shing also made Paul Bonian, the skeleton, a giant axe. So I think that's really funny.
That's my axe. The axe is, I think the axe is 6 feet.
Nice. Yes. So for reference, the skeleton is about 2 humans tall. And does this Paul Bonian, the skeleton, live in your front yard or backyard?
No, he's been put away for the season because
got it.
He is a plastic skeleton, and Los Angeles has a little too much sun, even right now. So I didn't want him to fall apart. He'll be out again next Halloween to entertain the neighborhood.
Nice. I'm seeing some chatter in the chat about the time zones. Yes, I think just because of the quarantine, I've been increasingly staying up late and waking up late. Which is why normally I'm not such a weakling when it comes to waking up at the usually reasonable hour of 8 a.m. But I'm actually curious if you want to share in the chat, since the show is Doodle Therapy, I'm curious to hear if the pandemic or the quarantine has affected your typical, waking up, going to sleep schedule, and if so, how that's been affected. Because I think after this show, since we've gotten to wake up earlier these past few days, I might try to wake up earlier because you actually feels like you have a whole extra day when you wake up earlier. The downside is I'm just sleepy all the time. So also a little bit about myself. Like I said, I am a muralist and an illustrator based in the Bay Area. You can see some of my murals around this area, and I'm also a digital illustrator. Cool. So where we left off yesterday is we started working on some of our zines, which, as a reminder, if you would like to create a zine as well, you can follow along with the template that I've linked to in the description. It's a pretty simple format. It's like a booklet of different pages, and you can put together some information. So my zine is about endangered butterfly species in San Francisco Bay Area. And what we can do to help address this, whether it's something as simple as, helping cultivate some butterfly species in your backyard, like one person did. Shing, do you mind telling us a little bit about where you're at in your project and where you last left off and what you're creating your project about?
Mine is a lot more goofy. I wanted to make a little zine about just my comfort foods because, especially in these pandemic times, I have been, reaching out for just comfort and home. I am home basically all the time, but it's been, a solid 9-10 months of just really listening to what my body wants, especially what it wants to eat. So I made a zine about some of my favorite comfort foods, which, range from ramen to gummy worms to bok choy. Like I just really like bok choy.
Ooh.
And fried chicken, pizza, sushi. And then I'm just illustrating different foods. And I've got a little monster avatar. I actually very rarely draw humans, but
ooh, interesting.
I tend to think of myself as a little yellow blob. And if you can tell, I look very identical to this little dude right here, right now.
This little guy's so cute.
Thank you.
I like how you did the shading as well on his or their to show the 3D-ness around.
Yeah, I actually just discovered the halftone brushes yesterday, so I decided to do this entire zine with them.
And just as a recap, you are using Fresco, the iPad app.
I am using Fresco.
Yeah.
This is my second day of using Fresco, so I am learning this program as I go along.
It's
live.
Great.
Y'all get to see me fumble my way through it.
Yeah, I love the way that you have started shading in some of those colors.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm also seeing in the chat, some folks are talking about how there's snow where they are, and I'm a little jealous, to be honest.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. We live in California, so not too much snow, at least not amongst the coastal areas.
Yeah, we don't get to see snow unless we travel.
Yeah. We have to intentionally drive out to snow, and then that presents problems because driving in snow is really scary, as I found out. And
we have California cars that don't have snow tires on them.
Yes. I want to say hi to Revert Mike because Mike has watched previous Doodle Therapies as part of the afternoon streams. So it's nice to see a familiar face. And yeah, if you have any questions about the art that we're making, whether it's the process of using the tools or how we go about with our sketching process, feel free to ask us. Oh, actually, we did get a question from Karen saying, could you talk about your process going from hand drawing to digital? Yeah, I can share a little bit about my process. So I have a pretty digital heavy process. Usually it starts off with doing a quick line pencil sketch, and then I will start shading in the shapes that I want to use. So as you can see here, I'm working on 2 butterflies. This front one is a bit more developed, though not finished. And the second one is really rough. Like the colors don't make sense. They're not really talking to each other. And what I mean by that is, like, for example, this is really bright and saturated and cool, and this wing is really warm and kind of dull. So I'm just not thinking about color yet. I'm more thinking about the shape here. But here, this butterfly, I've started adding in detail once I feel like I've gotten the shape language down. I usually, take this shape and I'll, kind of refine it. I feel like I'm like sculpting a little bit, when I'm doing this. I'm slowly sculpting the shape to be what I want it to be, and then I'll start adding in layers. And I'll pull in my layer panel here. So you can see that I make use of clipping masks quite frequently. So I have this shape here, and I have about 7 different additional detail layers clipped into that. And I think I really like the layering effect when you add it all up together. So that's my process. What about you, Shing?
Oh, I have an extremely straightforward process, which is that I've never used a clipping mask in my entire life. We may have to have a conversation later where I'm like, Alice, what is a clipping mask? I started out as primarily a traditional artist. I work in watercolor, I work in pen and ink. So when it comes to digital art, I try and replicate that process as straightforwardly as possible. Right down to the teal that's going on here. Even when I sketch on paper, I usually use a blue pencil. So, I mean, we're talking about comfort, right? Like the thing that made me actually enjoy digital drawing was finding tools that replicated my traditional tools as much as possible. So even basically, I'm doing all my inks on this entire zine with the Conti crayon brush.
That's a nice brush. Yeah,
and it's just really straightforward. It's got a slight inconsistency in it that really mimics a unsharpened pencil. So I don't really love the slickness of digital art in my own work. my own work tends to be really kind of rough and inconsistent. I love looking at beautiful, slick digital art. I just have no idea how to do it. So even down to the, you see I have 3 favorite brushes here. It's just 3. It's one brush for inking, and the other 2 are just 2 halftone brushes, which I'm using for the colors. So I need to keep things simple because I don't have, and it sounds weird to kind of be like, oh, I don't actually have a lot of like technical knowledge or skill, because I do. I just like things to be as simple as possible. So my process here is literally, I do the sketch, and then I trace over my sketch lines, and then I color underneath that sketch, underneath the ink layer. So 3 steps. Absolutely straightforward.
I love it. It looks great. And I think I do really like it when like the brushes that you use and the textures that we find with these tools are really mimicking the real life, vibe of using a crayon, and it kind of sometimes it just goes all over the place. So yeah. Karen asked if we ever create our own brushes, or are these predefined? So I believe these are predefined, and I'm using Kyle's brushes in Photoshop, which are excellent. You can find them actually if you have a Photoshop Creative Cloud subscription. I'll just show you the easy peasy button to click. So if you're in Photoshop, you can just open up the brushes panel and then go to this little hamburger menu and then click on Get More Brushes. And then that will lead you to a page with more of Kyle's excellent brushes. And I also use Sid's brushes. Let's see. My brush panel has this really weird thing where like I feel like it's like getting rid of brushes because I loaded in a lot of Sid's brushes before. But I do like using other brushes from a couple other creators. This one is by an animation artist named Shing Yin Khor. So yeah, it's nice to kind of amass a small collection of brushes that you enjoy using.
I would love to get into making my own brushes someday, especially if I could make watercolor brushes that really replicate watercolor the way I like to paint. But that is a pipe dream right now, because every time I look at brushes, I get a little bit intimidated by them.
Ooh, yeah. I actually recently found a tutorial on Instagram. It was an Instagram reel. And the person was showing how they basically, let's say, like they had a leaf and they wanted to draw a vine. This is like a leaf, or whatever, vine. And they didn't want to draw it multiple times, so they like drew the leaf once and then they turned it into a brush stampy shape. And then with the brush tools, you can like adjust the distribution. And so, yeah. I also, while we're talking about art stuff, the art side of things, I did want to give a quick PSA for anyone who ever ends up drawing a butterfly. This is something I learned last year. So if you think about how to draw a butterfly, what comes to mind is probably this sort of shape, right? It's like a 3, and flipped over. But actually, that is not completely accurate. Butterflies don't actually show up like this in the wild. As you can see here from some pictures, the butterflies, if you think about the horizontal axis of the butterfly's wings is actually aligned to the top like part of the top wing, not the bottom part of the top wing, between the wings. If that makes sense. So a more accurate way to draw butterflies is having the top wing line up to a horizontal line. And actually the reason why you see butterflies drawn like this in media or even in illustrations and represented like this is because those are actually dead butterflies, and the taxidermist or the display artist or whatever is pinning the wings up because it's believed to be more recognizable or attractive. So but then if you end up drawing that as your illustration, you're actually just drawing dead butterflies. So this is something I learned the hard way because I accidentally basically drew an incorrect butterfly for my
I did not realize that.
Yes. So you can see here with my butterfly, I tried to keep this top axis horizontal. And then obviously it changes a little bit when you are drawing the butterfly like in motion, because that means that the dimensions are a little different. Normally the butterfly is like this, but the wings are back like this. So you might see a little bit of that top part, be a little squashed, but that's because of the dimension, not because of the butterfly looks like. So, fun fact, PSA, avoid my mistakes that I've made. Yeah. Yes. And also great to see everyone who's joining us as well. Hey to Jessica Tam, who has also, I think, joined our afternoon Doodle Therapy. It's great to see familiar faces. Also meet new friends. So yesterday we were having a great conversation about career, life stuff, as is a very common theme and thread on this show. I think it's really interesting to hear about people's stories and how they approach life, career, work, art making, in addition to the maybe more technical questions you might have. So one fun thing that a fun game I thought we could play between the two of us is looking at important or pivotal projects or events from your career or life, and sharing the journey that it took to get you to that particular point. So like the domino effect of events that led you to your first book deal. Because I think people look at it from the outside and they think, oh, then she got lucky randomly one day and she got a book deal. But they don't actually see maybe you spent years publishing your own comics project on Twitter. And then, it happened that someone saw it and then you collaborated for 3 months and then, the opportunity presented itself, or, you got to meet the person you collaborated with or whatever. So I thought it'd be a fun game to play, is like, how did you actually get there? Or what were the domino effects that led to insert, pivotal moment? Yeah. And if people want to share their own stories of, how they got to a certain point, the domino effects in the chat, I think it'd be fun to see that as well. But Shing, you were telling me a bit about how you got your first book project or book.
Yeah. So I was talking, we were chatting about this a little bit before the show. So the book that I just completed and that is being published this year, which is the longest project I've ever worked on. It's actually my second book deal, but it's my first with a large publisher. It's with Kokila, which is a imprint of Penguin Random House. And that, it feels like the culmination of about, I feel like 8 years of work. So my first book deal was, I think I signed the contract about 6 years ago. And that was a memoir about traveling Route 66 with my dog, Bug. And it actually
who we saw?
Yes, who is now snoozing next to me, which is great because he's no longer barking at the neighbor.
What a sweetie.
That essentially happened because I was doing a comic called Tiny Adventure Journal that was all about me, taking road trips with or without my dog across the United States. And for that book, I was approached directly by the book's editor who asked me to pitch things. So I did. That publication process actually took about, I think, 4 years total. And it wasn't paid a lot for it. It was essentially, getting paid to drive all of Route 66, which I'd always wanted to do, and then write a book about it. But I kind of consider that my first project. But I think my current book deal is the one that probably, people think of when they think of, oh, this is a book deal. And that's not to shoot down my first book, which I love very much. And I think it's wonderful. But this book that I just finished now, it's called The Legend of Auntie Po.
Okay.
And it's coming out June of this year, is the one that follows most of the traditional steps of a book deal. You pitch you get an agent, you pitch a book, you work on the book. It's the very traditional process. And I feel like the domino effect that really led to all these things clicking into place was just me doing my own work. Because the thing that actually got me my agent, the thing that actually made him reach out to me specifically and be like, hey, do you have any longer books to pitch? Was just a comic that I'd done for Catapult called Say It With Noodles. It was just a comic about language and food and how, I use food as a language, not just a love language, like, a language in general. And that was the comic that got agents to reach out affirmatively to me. I had been pitching agents before that, but I hadn't really gotten any like solid responses. And when that comic came out, I think 3 or 4 agents actually, dropped into my DMs. Slid into my DMs to be like, hey, do you have anything longer that you want to pitch and you want to talk about?
Wow.
And as it stood, I actually did. And like we talked about earlier, I actually ended up going with my current agent. I'm actually his first graphic novel client. So we were both kind of taking a chance there. But Bug, could you chill out just a little bit? Sorry, my dog is just, she doesn't usually wake up this early either. So
she's confused.
She's a little confused. So anyway, I actually ended up signing with my current agent because he was a fellow woodworker.
Oh, that's cool.
And that was, a point of connection that we both had. And I was willing to trust him because despite the fact that he hadn't sold a graphic novel before, because I just felt like, we were people that would get along in real life, and we were people that could be friends, and we are friends. And it feels a little silly, but so many of my professional decisions that I've made in my life that have gotten me here were based entirely on instinct and on, I think that I've steered my career towards working with people that I felt I could get along with. And when I sold my book, which is a book about, it's very much about the early Chinese American migrant experience. And it's about Chinese labor in the 1800s. And it's very much a book about, this is what happens after the Chinese built the Transcontinental Railroad. And so when we were pitching this book, my kind of little quiet hope was that I would be able to work with editors of color. Yes. And the publishing industry has very, very few editors who are non-white. That's just what it is, and that landscape is changing a little bit. But it's still a very slow process where a lot of power in the publishing industry is held by white women. But it was my little pipe dream that I wanted to sell my book to people that would get it, to people that would understand it. And that was something that I felt comfortable, telling my agent in a way that I may not have been comfortable with if they were, also a person of color. And it worked out, I am so happy with the publisher that I ended up with. My editor is an absolutely brilliant Indian American woman. My art director is a just amazing Latinx woman. And they're all just so smart and they know exactly what they're talking about. And even though my book has evolved from pitch to the final book, I just feel like it's evolved for the better because I prioritized, I feel, people that would get it over even, I feel like money.
Interesting. Where can people go to find out more information about your book?
If you just do a quick Google search for The Legend of Auntie Po, AUNTIEPO, you will just see the pre-order come up, and you can buy it anywhere that books are sold.
Cool. Yeah, you should definitely check it out. And you can also follow Shing online at Sawdust Bear, which is
Yes.
on the
Right
window.
up there.
Yes. Yeah, that's awesome. I was also going to say, not sure if we can find it, but maybe we can put your catapult story in the chat. It's called Say It With Noodles, and so people can read it and kind of get a sense of a piece of your book story that maybe most people haven't, been familiar with. Or they didn't connect the dots of like, this resulted in this, which resulted in this now.
The thing I'd really love to know about your path, Alice, is I think we met when you had been painting. When I think I saw you paint your first mural. Was that your first mural?
It was technically my third, but it was my second paid mural. Yes.
And how did you find your way into working at such large scale?
Yeah, when you saw me, I was probably extremely stressed. Like I was probably.
I mean, we both were. We were both like working. So.
Yes. So I just want to say thanks to Tim, our wonderful mod, for finding and linking the Catapult comic story that Shing mentioned. And this is a part of the story of how Shing's journey has brought them to writing their current book. For some context, the way that Shing and I met was we met 2 years ago in 2018 at the XOXO festival in Portland. XOXO is a awesome festival for independent artists, but I think it encompasses all types of makers. So
I think it does.
I think if you're watching Adobe Live and choosing to watch live streams about design and art and creativity, you would love XOXO because it's kind of like meeting all of your internet friends from the art and design community. Yeah, in one place. So we both actually were hired by XOXO, the festival, to create installations at that year's event. And actually, Shing and I didn't meet at XOXO because I think we were both too busy. But I had heard a lot about...
Well, we met. We just didn't hang out, I think.
Yeah. We maybe met... we literally met, but we didn't actually
just sort of a...
meet as
correct
friends or humans. So I was painting a mural called Dear Future Me, and it was a experience where you could write a letter to your future self in the area that I was painting the mural, and then you could hang it up around the mural, and then we mailed out all those letters a year later. And Shing can probably speak more to what they created, but they created a interactive blue ox bar, which I had heard a lot about, which is, maybe you could share a bit.
I was going to say, you might have been too busy to have actually made it to the bar at any point.
I didn't go. Yeah, I was so sad. I think by the time I wanted to go, it was closed already.
Oh no.
Yeah. I was like, oh well.
But I designed the bar installation, one of the bar installations at XOXO that was also the karaoke bar. And it was called the Blue Ox Bar, which ties into my love of the Paul Bunyan myth and early Americana. So it was very much a bar that you would, it was sort of a hipster interpretation of a bar that you might find in a logging camp scenario. Which, little bit of history, logging camps were actually dry, so there would not have been a bar at a logging camp.
Oh, okay.
But if you were to head to town, there might have been a saloon there. So,
were logging camps dry for safety reasons?
Yes.
I see. That makes a lot of sense.
Because, if you had, hundreds of extremely bored people doing hard labor, you probably also didn't want them to drink, because if given the option, they would. Because there was not an awful lot to do otherwise.
Yes.
But so that was a ton of fun, and I met a lot of wonderful people there, and I got to indulge my extremely dorky love for logging camps and lumberjacks, and I got to buy 3 axes on someone else's dime.
Wow, that's incredible.
I still have them.
Oh, nice. I got to buy a ton of rose gold plated like clips and string and twine and all those things. So that was fun. And then I got to keep them because, we had like hundreds.
Yeah.
And I do want to say also thanks to Karen for sharing the Penguin Random House link to the Legend of Auntie Poe. And
Thank you.
Thanks to everyone for taking a look at Shing's cool comic stories.
It is middle grade, so it is intended for children who are about 12. Just so you know.
Yeah. So actually the way that I can play the game as well. Let's call it the domino game. So it's like the recounting the domino effect of events that led to a certain cool thing that you got to do. That maybe only people see just the cool thing, but there's actually probably a backstory to it. So I actually got that first one of those first mural projects at XOXO because so to attend XOXO, the festival, you have to fill out an application. It's a really simple application. It's just like, hi, who are you, basically, and one of the reasons why they do it is because they have limited capacity. It's about 500 people per year usually. And I think also Andy, one of the organizers, mentioned that they don't want like a lot of like sales or like ad people to come and try to like pitch the audience of artists. They want it to be like designers, makers, artists, and keep it that way. So the application is just a simple way to screen for that. But in my application, there was a bonus question that was like, what are some things you're excited about? And then I just wrote like in all caps, murals. And then I posted a link to my like Instagram with like the one mural I had painted at the time because I was so obsessed. And then randomly that summer, like 2 months before, Andy, one of the organizers, reached out to me and was like, would you like to do a mural at XOXO? And then
2 months. Yeah, 2 months.
Yeah. Oh, it gets crazier. So
oh no.
So but they weren't I feel like I can say this is not like a insult, it's just like the facts. They weren't like, I think, as responsive as they normally would be because they were really busy. So like for some reason we ended up like agreeing formally to do it like about 3 weeks before XOXO. So like a month passed. And I very insistently followed up. I would like email them about once a week and be like, hey, just following up here because I haven't heard from you. And my reasoning was, if you reached out to me when I didn't even apply for this, like I'm going to assume that you want to hear from me and that this isn't not annoying. I hope it's not annoying.
That is absolutely a good way to look at it.
Yeah, like it might be annoying if it wasn't warranted and if I was just like, hey, just want to like pitch you on a mural and like follow up like 5 times. But I was like,
but they asked.
Yeah, they're the ones who asked. So, and then it actually turned into a mural installation, which was like an interactive thing where people could like write letters and then put them up and hang them and stuff. So that basically, and then I was actually going to Burning Man, which is a week-long experience in the desert, the week before XOXO. So I really only had like 1.5 weeks to finish it. So every day I would have a 1-hour phone call scheduled at the same time with Andy where we just hash out all of the details that we had to go through. And then I like entrusted one of my friends with like the job of like consolidating all of the materials that I had ordered for it. And then I like went off to Burning Man and then I like flew straight home and then flew straight to Portland. And then the rest was a blur. And that was why I was so stressed, is because I previously had been blissfully in a state of zen. And then I was like, oh yeah, I have to like make this installation. So yeah.
Amazing. I think I actually did not go to Burning Man that year because I had to build my XOXO installation.
Ooh, nice.
I also had to drive from Los Angeles to Portland
because
I see tools and things that I had to transport, even though we had worked out something where a lot of the installation was being built in Portland.
Nice. Yeah, I'm curious if you're watching us, joining us live in the chat. I invite you to also share your domino effect story. Something that led to something else, that then led to something else, that led to a cool project that you got to, work on, or cool collaboration with a friend maybe, or perhaps just a turning point or an inflection point in your journey.
I might actually be able to finish this zine entirely while we're talking,
Wow.
which I'm very excited about.
Yes, I think I've gone all in on this one butterfly, and I'm trying to create
It is a great
scene.
butterfly.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm just trying to play with color and pay homage to this butterfly. So, yeah.
Alice, I was curious, how did you develop your current your current digital style?
Oh, that's a good question. Style is an interesting question. I feel like it's just something that's come really naturally to me. There's some, I think a lot of my work is actually influenced by the medium of the digital medium. So one cool thing you can do when you work digitally is have a ton of layers. So you can see I have a bazillion layers here. Obviously it's harder to have that when you're working analog because, you can make layers, but you can't like manipulate them. Like you can't like move one paint layer to the top of the next paint layer.
I think it's actually interesting to see how our layers compare, which is that I have 3.
Oh,
if you kind
interesting.
of look at the side, I've got 3, 4 if you include the template, and that's it.
Yeah. If you do that, then how do you, let's say you decided you want to change the pose of, I'm trying to think of like a really minute sort of change to make.
I mean, honestly, I just erase and do it again.
Wow. Okay, cool.
And a lot of times my color layers are, I will have more than one color layer. It's just that for this, I'm just kind of doing it. But in terms of line art, yeah, it's just erase and do it again. And honestly, I worked in traditional mediums for so long that the fact that I can erase is already, this little like spark of joy that I have. Like just the undo button feels like it's giving me such a gift.
Yeah. Well, a question then. Let's say you were drawing this butterfly that I'm working on, and let's say you decided you wanted to raise the wing. But it was all on just a few layers. How would you go about doing that? Would you like use the lasso tool and then just pull the whole thing up, or?
Yeah, I would. Yes.
I would just like I have it in my layers.
First of all, like I'm not capable of producing art like that, but I would, because if I were to do this butterfly, it'd probably just be line art with then color underneath it. So yeah, I would probably just lasso the line layer and move it to where I need it to be, and then do the same with the color layer. Or I would erase it and do it again.
I see.
So
what if you're attached to it? What if you're like, I don't want to do it again because it took me a while?
Well, I would be very sad about it, and then I would do it again.
Nice.
I might, walk away from my iPad because I would be so bummed about it. But I definitely ran into things like that with my book, where and it was very minor things, but a thing that I learned about, because my book is historical fiction. So there were lots of moments where, let's say, I drew someone lounging with their hands in their pants pockets, because that's just a very, it's a very loungy position to be in.
Like
and then in doing a lot of research, I would be like, oh, pants pockets just weren't a thing. in the
Oh,
1800s, like not in the way we think of them, right? They're
okay. How
so I
did
would
they not
have
store
to.
things in their
No,
pockets?
no, they did. It's just that pockets tended to be sort of in their waistbands, and would kind of be
Oh,
like more hidden and more horizontal instead of kind of the curved pockets we see nowadays, right?
like
Like
that.
they were just a different shape. They did exist. Bug, sorry, my dog's trying to climb on my lap again.
Aw.
Um, and there were lots of scenes where it was just like, oh, my main character goes out and puts stuff in the garbage can. It's like garbage cans weren't really a thing. They just weren't.
Okay.
So now she has to go out and feed food scraps to the chickens. Uh, and or things like, oh, look at these piles of sandwiches, and I drew them as baguettes. It's like baguettes hadn't arrived in the United States by then.
Oh.
They weren't really a common thing. So after I drew the first pass of my book, I absolutely had to go back and redraw a ton of things just to
Right.
bring it in line with a little more historical accuracy.
Ah,
And yes,
interesting.
basically what I did was be bummed about it.
Nice. Jessica wanted to know if we attended Adobe Max and if I liked any sessions. Yeah, I did attend it. It was really fun. I think some of them are actually on YouTube still, the sessions. And then I think some of them are not available on YouTube anymore, like the celebrity events. But please correct me if I'm wrong. And I'm also curious if, if you had any favorites as well. Michael says in the chat that they have just scheduled their first ACA exam for Illustrator. I've
Ooh,
never taken the ACA exams, but I would love to
what
learn
is the
more.
ACA exam?
Yeah, let us know what that is and what kind of like preparations that you've been doing for it. So now I feel like my butterfly has, I've added in a lot of detail here, and so now I'm just gonna have fun with like the lighting and just kind of go wild. This is not really like a super realistic lighting. It's more of just like what I feel looks good, and obviously it kind of follows some rules of like, it's coming from general direction, but just the shapes and all of that. Yeah.
What is your kind of official, like, I guess, training as an artist? Like, did you go to art
Oh
school?
yeah. I did not go to art school. I went to business school.
Wow.
And yeah, and so my path, my large scale domino path, and I want to say bye to Richard. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. My dominoes is I went to business school. I was like on the path to be an investment banker or like a marketing consultant. So you guys, like my life's really taken a real 360 turn or 180. So I went to business school, and then after that, I got hired as a product designer at Dropbox in 2013. Worked there for about a year and a half. While I was at Dropbox, I fell in love with drawing and illustration, and I became an illustrator like as my job title. So I think my job title was like illustrator and product designer. And then I like left to go freelance, and then I've been an illustrator since, and I've explored different things like murals and digital illustration and whatnot.
That is wonderful. Do you feel like your business background has given you a lot of, understanding on how to situate your career?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's helped me a lot with communication and presentation as well. Um, yeah, because that is one of the like takeaways in terms of like the skills from business school, like the soft skills is like
Right.
presenting yourself. Ooh, Karen wanted to know what skills I felt were transferable from finance to art. I think that I have a pretty good grasp on my finances and accounting. I have a good sense of, for example, my business expenses every year and, what I need to make in order to not only cover them, but be in a good place in terms of like savings and for the future stuff. Um, I think it's really easy to get like messy and unorganized with that stuff. So I do think I have a decent system in place. I think also I could be better at it, but I think I'm okay when it comes to negotiating for prices. And I think that's also in part because my studio mate of friends, my studio of friends who I share an office with are also like kind of, we're good at like hyping each other up and being like, yeah, ask for more.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah. Also, Michael says their ACA is the Adobe Certified Associate exam.
Oh, cool.
So that's great. I hope good luck on that, and I wish you the best on that process. You'll have to let us know how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, I also did not go to art school. I am a English and theater major.
Ooh,
Technical
okay.
specifically. And for me, I think that the skills that really, really actually helped me in my career is all my theater. I was a scenic designer and a technical director for several years, actually. And that gave me the ability to manage projects, but also just work with people. Like, so much of theater is collaborating with people under like very immovable deadlines and under time constraints. And that just gave me sort of like a lot of confidence. And I think that's very similar to, being able to negotiate. It's being able to walk into a room and being like, yeah, no, I got this. Like, I have done significantly more difficult things.
Yeah.
But I spent a lot of time thinking of whether things would have been different if I'd gone to art school. Like, would I just have learned certain things a lot quicker? But I am glad that my path was the path that it was.
Me too. I do think that the idea of art school sounds really cool. Like, I'd love to have a full curriculum of like just learning art. But I think also I don't do super well when it comes to academic environments where I feel like I'm being graded. So I feel like I would chafe a little bit at that. And I might not be like the best student. I feel like I tend to do like the opposite of what the teacher says usually.
Yeah, at the same time, like, I would love, I feel like right now, I would love to be able to take, more classes, right? Like, I think I'm finally at that point in my life where I think I truly value education. And ironically, it is also the time where I have the least time to actually pursue it.
Interesting. Yeah.
I feel like college is slightly wasted on the young.
It is, yeah.
I'm supposed to decide what I want to do with the rest of my life when I'm 18? Like, I'm not very smart at 18.
Yeah. I actually took a leave of absence in the middle of college for a semester. And I worked, and it was actually really rewarding to come back and have a little bit more perspective. So I do want to say that we are coming to the end of the stream. Thank you all for being such wonderful and supportive early morning viewers with us,
so
or
early.
Afternoon, depending on where you're watching from, since we normally are in the afternoon. And coming up after this will be the Photoshop Creative Daily Challenge with Voodoo Val, so stick around for that. And you can follow Shing on the internets at Sawdust Bear, and we can put it in the chat as well. And I am at by Alice Lee on Twitter, Instagram, Behance. Let's be internet friends. We'd love to see some of the artwork that you're making. And if you're watching this not live, and if you have questions, feel free to email, and I will do my best to answer them. To end this stream, I think we have about 2 minutes left. Michael
Your butterfly is gorgeous.
Oh, thank you. Michael asked, what is one thing that we are both learning or studying this year, whether it's non-art or a different medium? I will say that the thing that I want to get into is punch needling, which is like a type of like, I'm not sure if it's like it's like a knitting or like a weaving kind of tapestry, but it's like how people make certain types of rugs or hangings. So if you are a punch needler, let me know because I want to be friends.
I am learning how to carve marionettes in the traditional Czech way.
Wow, cool.
So it's very specific, but I am learning wood carving, and I've decided to dive into the deep end where I haven't as much as carved a spoon before, and now I'm carving a whole marionette.
Wow. Both unrelated to our
absolutely unrelated, but
yeah.
I need that, distraction from the rest of everything else.
Yeah. Cool. So if there's any marionette carvers or punch needlers out there, please let us know. These are some new hobbies for this year. Michael says Shing is always doing something very specific. Love it. Love it. Specificity. And I also want to say Doodle Therapy will be back in 2 weeks with Shirley Wu. We will be talking about making data art, data visualizations at the same time. So thanks to everyone for joining us. It was great to see you all, and I hope you have a fabulous day. Stick around for the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge, and thank you to Shing for joining us, as well as Bug. Bye!
It was a joy and a pleasure.
Yeah. See you guys later.